I'm Terry W. Thomas, 68 years old, live in Chattanooga, and we're talking about the service time and more specific the Vietnam War era. I was born in Knoxville, Tennessee in 1948. The Navy. I enlisted, it was either enlist or get drafted. When I graduated from high school in Knoxville in '66, you either joined or you got drafted. And so I went ahead and joined. Well, I didn't like it, but you had no choice. Everybody was getting drafted then. I made third class petty officer before I got out after 4 years. I got out, I was 24 years old. Yes, I joined the Navy, and I was supposed to fly out of McGee Tyson Airport in Knoxville to go to San Diego, California for boot camp training. When I got to the airport, they told me that no, I was going to the Great Lakes, Illinois, and this was in January, and I had a little light nylon jacket on, and I told them they were mistaken. They told me to get on the plane, and I went to Great Lakes, Illinois, and it had 13 inches of snow when we arrived, and I froze to death. My first duty station was right outside of Washington, D.C., a place called Anacostia. I was there a short period, and then I went on to a ship, an aircraft carrier in the Mediterranean Ocean, and the USS Franklin D. Roosevelt. It's a real old ship. And I stayed there about 7 months, and then they put our ship in dry dock to refurbish it, and it takes about 2 years for them to do one of those ships. So they transferred all of us off instead of leaving us there on it with nothing to do. And I went to a transit area in Charleston, South Carolina, and from there they transferred me to a place called Sidi Yahia, Morocco, and it was desert. It was hot. We couldn't wear any uniforms. We couldn't have any military IDs because back at that time they were still having the Arabic-Israeli wars, and there was actually not supposed to be any American military in Morocco at that time, and we were on a communications base. We didn't fly a flag or anything. I was there for 1 year, and when I left there, I got orders to small craft school in Coronado, California, and went through training on the small craft. I was really kind of happy. That was my last year in the service, and I thought that as a small craft I'd be on a harbor boat or a buoy tender or tugboat or something out there on the California coast for a year, but that didn't work out. It turned out to be a gunboat, and I couldn't think of anywhere in the United States that were using gunboats on the river, so I went to the training for that. They sent me to a place called 29 Palms, which is a Marine base, California, for weapons training, and from there I went to Vietnam. No, none of the uniforms were comfortable. The Navy, we had the wool dress blues, and then we had a light summer uniform, a white cotton type summer uniform. In Vietnam, we wore fatigues, and nothing would have been comfortable in Vietnam because of the climate.
Yeah.
Yes, I did until we went to Vietnam. We were, of course, we didn't have the cell phones then.
Yeah.
We didn't have the computers with the FaceTime and the Skype and everything else. We were allowed one phone call a year. I got into Saigon, the capital of South Vietnam, and the USO had a phone service set up. It took about 40 minutes to get the phone call to go through. They had to relay it through ham radio systems and stuff. And when I finally called home, there was no one home. We didn't have the access that soldiers and sailors and people have in the military these days, where they can communicate. It was either by letter, or every now and then you would get a chance to make a phone call. No, not really. Made what they called a short timer's calendar. It was a large sheet of paper with a outline of the old style pin-up girls that they had. They would draw on the nose of airplanes back in the war, and it had a bunch of little squares in it, and I'd color one out every day. It was called a short timer's calendar, and it started with 4 years of time, day to day, and I'd color them until I was down to the last few squares. Then I knew when I got those colored, I was going home. No, my father was blind in one eye from a childhood accident, so he couldn't go. But there was no one else in my family at that time that was in the military. Had some good friends from high school that went. Most of them went. Back when I went in, everyone was going to Vietnam. And I actually joined the Navy. If you got drafted, it was just for 2 years, but you were guaranteed to go to Vietnam as soon as you got out of boot camp. I joined the Navy, so I'd stay out of Vietnam. But it was 4 years, and I at least thought if I had to go to Vietnam, I'd be off the coast on a ship somewhere, so it wouldn't be bad. But that didn't work. Yes, I did, most all the time. When I flew into Saigon, we flew from California to Hawaii, to Midway, and then into Saigon. It's one of those deals where you come off the plane and they'll tell you to run to the terminal and don't slow down because people behind you are running, to avoid snipers or attacks. And you get in the terminal and then they take you out to a transit area where they decide where they're going to send you. And another deal, you run to the bus. The bus had bars on the window so they couldn't throw anything through the glass or stuff like that. And then I got assigned to a support base. It was called Ben Luck, and it was about 40 miles north of Saigon. I arrived there and stayed maybe 2 months, and then they sent me to a small base. It was called Ma Qua, and didn't have any idea where it was at. And I did find out there was no way to get, there was no roads to it, and the only way to get there was either by helicopter or boat. And So I flew there and stayed my tour, the rest of the main in Makwa. We had maybe 25, 30 people on the base. We weren't on land. We were on barges anchored in the middle of the river, since we were such a small base, so they couldn't overrun us. And one side of the river bank was Cambodia, and the other side of the river bank was Vietnam. And we took fire probably 2 to 3 nights a week, or days a week. We played spades and drank beer. You couldn't drink the water. Our little base, like I said, was anchored on barges. We built some hooches on the barges. The Seabees built them for us. We had no running water, no hot water, and all the water that we had, it was brown, so they gave us iodine tablets to put in it to purify it. But even though you purified it, you were still drinking brown water, so we didn't drink it. And it was no choice but to drink beer. That was all you had. We didn't have water bottles then. And we ate powdered eggs, had powdered milk, and no running water, no hot water. Well, over there was no leave. You could go off for a week, but if you were married, they'd fly you to Hawaii to meet your family if they could come out, or you could go to Thailand or Australia. But I saved my money and did go on that week's leave, and they called it R&R, rest and relaxation.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to save my money to do something when I got back. And on the other 3 years and the different bases I was on, when I was in Morocco, there was no leave. You couldn't leave. You couldn't go anywhere. The Arabics and the Moroccans really didn't like us. They had to have us there, but they didn't want us. So it wasn't safe to go anywhere. And when I was in Charleston and right outside of D.C., you could go, if you weren't working, you could go just about anywhere you wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to do it again, but I would. At that time, everybody was very patriotic, and there was protesters against the Vietnam War. A lot of people were going to Canada and just refusing to serve. I felt like it was my obligation as an American. And I lost some friends from school. And made some good friends when I was in the service, and I lost those over in Vietnam. Some of my best buddies that I went through grade school and high school together.
You're fine.
But what you did. Yeah. I see it on TV, and you'd hear about it, read about it in the paper. So, we didn't have Facebook again. But I know when I flew home from Vietnam, we flew out of Saigon and flew to Yokosuka, Japan. Then we refueled in Alaska, and we landed near San Francisco. And when we got to the terminal, they made us, anybody that had civilian clothes with them, they made us take our uniforms off, put those on, because they didn't want us wearing our uniforms out in public. on the flights home because it would cause controversy, and was afraid there would be problems. And there would have been. If someone had said something, or, a lot of Vietnam veterans had people spit on them, throw things at them, stuff like that. Called them baby killers and an unjust war, but, I didn't feel that way. But I hated to think that after all we'd sacrificed, I couldn't wear a uniform. But you had to do what you're told. Well, there was a lot of controversy in the fact that we didn't really belong in Vietnam. The biggest disappointment I had about Vietnam and about the whole war itself, and still to this day, is that it was totally political. Totally. We lost so many people that it was useless the way we lost them, because they really wouldn't let us win. If we got into a battle or a firefight, they'd call us away if we were doing too well. They didn't want us killing too many of them. They didn't want us to hold ground. The Army and the Marines could take an area or a town or a village or a hill and spend 3 or 4 days losing several hundred people doing it, and having twice that many wounded and maimed and injured, only to leave after they took it. And as soon as they left, the North Vietnamese and the Viet Cong would come right back to it. We didn't hold any ground, so therefore we accomplished nothing. Like I say, I didn't want to go, but I knew that I had to join the service. Back then, you had to, and I was real hesitant about going, just out of fear of not making it home, because every day in the papers they would have a list of the people from your city, wherever you lived, that were killed in Vietnam or wounded. And like I say, I was my friends that some of them even quit school to go, and I went to their funerals before I ever went. While I was, before I ever graduated, I was going to my friends' funerals that were coming back. And, there's a lot of wounded people coming home. I just thought that could have been a better way. They didn't. The politicians ran the war, not the military. Totally. Kind of like they're doing now. And the military can't win when you do that, like when you tie their hands. They say, well, innocent people die. That's war. That's a shame, but it happens. I know a lot of innocent people in Vietnam got killed, but in the area we were in, from dusk till dawn, if anything moved, you shot it. And sometimes you didn't know what it was out there. Maybe an innocent farmer or somebody going to the rice paddies early or something, but you didn't know. Because the Viet Cong were the local population. They may work on the bases during the day and fight you at night. You never knew.
Do you have any friends that you made over there that you're in touch with now?
I did, but they have since passed on. Just not many, but a few. You had close friendships when you were there, but you tried not to get too personal. People rotated in and out, or left at different times when their enlistments were up, or they got transferred, or they got wounded, or I think one of my best friends, he got wounded out of Texas. He went home, and he was probably my best friend when I was in Vietnam.
Do you have anything else to add?
No.
Thank
That's
you.
about it. I did, but they have since passed on. Just not many, but a few. You had close friendships when you were there, but you tried not to get too personal. People rotated in and out, or left at different times when their enlistments were up, or they got transferred, or they got wounded, or I think one of my best friends, he got wounded out of Texas. He went home, and he was probably my best friend when I was in Vietnam.